Hey guys, Helen Hartsmith here again from the Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel. Hope you're having a good day. I am. Hope you're doing well as we continue to deal with the pandemic that is sweeping around the world. I hope you're happy, safe, and healthy. And today I wanted to do a book review. I would like to talk to you today about this awesome book called Gay Witchcraft, Empowering the Tribe by Mr. Christopher Penczak. I have wanted to do a book review on this book for quite a while now, and I was like, well, let's not wait, let's just do it. Okay, so let's see. This book is copyright 2003 and it is 260 pages. I read this book quite a while ago, actually. And you can tell I've read it because, look, I've got bookmarkers and stuff in here. This is actually the book that really changed my outlook on both my sexuality and my spirituality. It really brought it together into one place in a way that I didn't understand how much of a, I don't want to say distance, maybe disconnect. I didn't understand how much of a disconnect I had between my sexuality and my spirituality until I read this book. And it was quite world changing for me. And I knew of Christopher at the time. I had already met him at Convocation. And so this was definitely a game changer book for me on my path, me walking along on my path. So this book is really, I was flipping through it and, you know, trying to like reacquaint myself with its contents because it's been a number of years since I've read it. But I wanted to kind of, you know, refresh my memory on what the contents of the book was. And I have to say, like, I really kind of liken this to a Wicca 101 book that's specifically geared for the LGBTQ community. I don't know if that was necessarily Christopher's thoughts on it, but let's talk about, you know, chapter by chapter, and kind of, I'll give you an outline as to the kind of information that he's covering, okay? So the first chapter is about history and mythology, and that's where things like really started to go, what for me? Like from the start of this book, I was like, you know, doors were opened that I hadn't known, you know, things I hadn't known and things like that. So yeah, we start right off with some really interesting historical stuff. And then chapter 2, we start talking about secret histories. And so I'm not going to go into any of this because if you're interested, then you're going to read this book. Okay. And this is definitely written in Christopher's typical style. There are meditation exercises throughout the book, so that's always helpful. And again, it's got that Wicca 101 feel. He starts off with, you know, his basic meditation countdown and things of that nature, and contacting the goddess and god, you know, at one point, and things like that. The third chapter talks about queer myth, and so he talks about creation myths. He also he has an entire, like, most of the rest of the chapter is all about queer positive deities. And so I think it's kind of timely that I finally said, okay, I'm going to record this book review now because over at the blog, I've just finished up doing my ABCs of the Norse Pantheon, and I am going to be starting up the next Pantheon, and it's not even going to be a Pantheon because I want to cover LGBTQ plus deities. So if you are part of that community and you want to know more about deities that you can work with on the, in that kind of realm, then that's the next group of gods that I'm going to be talking about. And if you don't follow the blog, I try to make a post once a week, usually on Wednesdays, that I pick a pantheon at a time, and I start at the A's, and I go through and share at least one deity from each letter of the alphabet from that pantheon. Now, not all pantheons have a deity that goes into each letter. Like the Norse pantheon isn't super large, so some of the letters were missing, but that's what I'm going to be doing next, is covering the LGBTQ plus deities. So it kind of makes sense that I'm doing this video and saying, hey, if you want to learn some more, go check out the blog. So, there we go. And I think I'll probably, there are a lot of deities that I found in my research, and so I'll probably share more than one. I'll just kind of see how it goes. Okay. So anyhow, the next chapter in the book is about going within, working. This is where he starts talking about meditation and doing the basic meditation countdown and things like that. Then we move into talking about the divine couple, the goddess and god. And of course, all of this information is coming from Christopher is a guy, so it's a gay man's perspective. But I felt that it encompassed all sexes as far as those from the LGBTQ community. Now, given that it was written in 2003, and I know that our words that we're claiming for ourselves in that community have changed quite drastically since this book was published. So kind of take that with a grain of salt as you read it. I still feel that it is a really good book to read, and I don't think that it's dated in the fact that I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here. He doesn't deal with like a lot of pronoun differences like we're talking about now in terms of the community and things like that, but it doesn't detract from the information that's there. Does that make sense? I hope I'm explaining myself clearly. Okay. Anyhow, the next chapter is all about animal wisdom. So working with animal spirits from a queer perspective. That was really an interesting chapter. The following chapter is about building your temples. So like the altar, sacred space, tools, and things like that. So again, kind of more of a Wicca 101 type information, but of course from that queer perspective. Also talking about your body and your chakras, your inner and outer temples. There's also some recipes throughout the book. There happens to be a ritual purification bath. So there's a little recipe of some herbs that you can put together to have a ritual purification bath. So I always appreciate those types of things. The next chapter is about being your own priest and priestess, and that is a really great chapter as well. Then welcoming the gods and goddesses within. So that's dealing with like the charge of the goddess, things like that. Then there's a whole chapter on spells and magic. And so there's actually some how-to as far as spell work and Christopher's approach to spell work. There's also, he talks about the reed. the Wiccan read in that chapter. And there's more spell work in here. So like petition spells, spells with poetry and verse, candle magic. I remember seeing in here when I was looking through, there was a coming out ritual. Maybe that wasn't this chapter, but there's a protection potion, a psychic potion, things like that. So that's, and again, it's all from that queer perspective. So that's kind of cool. A whole chapter on love magic. Maybe that's where the coming out ritual. I remember seeing a coming out ritual in these pages, and I thought that was like really cool to have that as part of this book, and very helpful for someone. There's also, let's see, soulmates. There's there's a whole chapter on sex magic. That's interesting. There is a sample hand fasting ceremony ritual in here. There's all kinds of healing magic in here. Psychic healing, sending light, which is like one of Christopher's very basic energy work spells that he's included here. Crystal healing. So that's cool that there's a whole healing chapter that is very, very helpful. More recipes, past life healing, and then there's a whole chapter on the turning of the wheel, and again from a queer perspective that is going to be helpful for you, especially if this is like a new thing for you. Rites of passage, there's a whole chapter with things like coming of age and coming out rituals. That might have been where I saw that. Okay. There it is, coming out ritual. Yay, I guess it was a lot later than I thought it was. But spiritual initiation and dedication, that is like really, really nifty. The hand fasting ritual. Yeah, and so that's pretty much the contents of the book. And so I'm trying to remember when I read this book. It was probably like 2007, somewhere between 2007 and 2010, maybe, when I read this book. And I just remember that feeling of that connection happening. And it, like I said before, it was so, it was just so incredible for me to have that kind of, that link, that you know, you have two little chains here, and then they became linked together. And it was like one of the best experiences for me as a pagan, was being able to have that connection. So I highly recommend this book if you're if you are LGBTQ and wondering about witchcraft, or if you're new to this path or what have you. There is some really good information in here, and I got to give it 5 brooms, right? I love this book. I can't recommend it enough. And this kind of puts me in mind that I've been thinking about doing some kind of a video sharing like my favorite LGBTQ Wiccan books. If that is something that you are interested in me doing, my list of favorites, then I would definitely be happy to do that. Let me know in the comments section below. So that's gonna wrap it up for this video. If you enjoyed it or learned something from it, then give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button. We like to have you come back to the channel here and check out what we've got going on. What else do I want to tell you? There are lots of links in the description box, including, as I spoke earlier about the blog, there will be a link to the blog there. At the time that I'm recording this video, I have not yet started my ABCs of the LGBTQ plus pantheon it's not really a pantheon, so I don't know what to call it, but I'm excited to do it. I haven't started it yet, but if I have started it by the time I post this video, then I will put a link to that first post in the description box. Of course, I will put a link to purchase this awesomeness. And yeah, I think that's going to be it. Have you read this book? Do you like this book? What are your thoughts? I would love to hear about it. I would also love to hear like what some of your favorite LGBTQ plus books are about Wicca, or not even necessarily just about Wicca, but like your favorite LGBTQ plus book. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this video. Sorry to be a little wee at the end here. Ave Maria. So thank you for watching, and thanks for walking the path for a little while with me. Until next time, blessed be.